Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. It's time for Freaky Friday. Yes, indeed. It's the three craziest podcasters on TFR joining forces once again to deliver you your unique, rare brand of woo that you get here on a Friday. And every Friday promises to bring something new every time. And boy, oh boy, there could be a lot new today. But I'm doing great. I'm looking forward to it all, Scott. Absolutely fantastic form today. The world is a brilliant place. How you doing, man?
Oh, it's nice to see you in such a positive, cheery mood today, my friend. But no, it's great to be back another week. The show yesterday, Kev, was absolutely phenomenal with Evan and Stephen Strong, talking about those stones down in Australia, man, and wow, you want to talk about woo ratcheted up to stratospheric levels. That's just some wild stuff, man. And so yeah, I mean, it was really good conversation. And I think we're going to kind of piggyback off of yesterday and kind of continue the conversation today when it comes to a lot of these strange, anomalous stones, I should say, and get into a lot of this stuff where it's like, how are these ancient people supposedly, how did they create these things? Or did they create these things? Now we're getting into the conversation of, they call them star stones, right? These things could, these could have been created in a completely different star system, right? Like the Pleiades or something. And, when people find these things, they already have the markings on them. It's not humans on Earth that may be etching these things or putting these markings on them. This could be the work of our ancient alien ancestors, Kev. So I don't know. It's gonna be good. It's gonna be good. We're gonna get into a lot of stuff.
It sure is. And Nacy, how you doing, man? I'm blitzing out the link here if I look exceedingly distracted to get everyone informed that Freaky Friday is live. What the hell are you doing not listening to us? A big shout to everyone on tfrlive.com. Big crowd over there for Freaky Friday today. Great to see. And I'll be heading on over to the Wookiee Cave in just a moment after we hear from the third amigo. Nacy, how you doing, man?
Que pasa, mi amigo? Okay. Oh, you can't roller skate in a buffalo herd. No, you can't roller skate in a buffalo herd. No, you can't roller skate in a buffalo herd, but you can be happy if you put your mind to it. Blue Rocky Mountain oysters. Not that type of crystal balls, but those that have some mystery to them. Because I am the mystery man. Ma'am. Sorry. I am that I am.
Excuse me, it's ma'am.
You see, you thought,
Correct.
even though I'm distracted, I'm doing everything. I still managed to get in the...
Excuse me, it's ma'am.
Yeah, not a problem.
Kev's like Schrodinger's cat. He's paying attention, but he's not all at the same time.
Why do you think I had to create Dave? I know people think it's a bit of comedy shtick, this imaginary dude I have. It really isn't. I'm balancing that many things at once, Scotty. Dave takes control of this half of the brain. Kev is in control of a quadrant of the brain. There's a part of it trying to get into the ESP, trying to get into the time stream. Talking of that, what a fascinating video I watched today about, it's nothing new. It was Russell Targ back from 2013 when he went to do a TED talk about consciousness and remote viewing in particular. And just before the TED talk, they cancelled it. And of course, for people who don't know, Russell Targ, respected physicist, but he was working with people like Hal Puthoff. We've talked about him before. Ed Dames, And I tell you, some of the stuff he was talking about, like I say, this was back in 2013. I'd watched it years ago when the video got, I think they said something like 7 to 10 million views. It was mega viral. And it was like the Streisand effect, right? Because TED, the people behind TED Talks, they pulled the plug on the TED kind of sponsorship of the talk just before it was about to go live. So that just causes more and more interest, right? Well, what was it TED wasn't wanting people to hear? And it was a fascinating discussion about remote viewing and, in more general terms, the fact that there's information all around us. We just need to know how to tap into it. And we do all have that ability. Some of us are better than others. Some are more finely tuned. And I think it fits with all the magical rock stuff we were talking about last night as well. Because as we'll come to find later on, not everyone can just pick up these rocks that are imbued with ancient power, technology, potentially the memory of everyone who's ever handled them throughout time. It takes a special practitioner. You've got to be ready for the rock, and the rock has to be ready for you, you know? That sounds deep, man. Wow.
Definitely going to be some rock and rolling.
Oh, can't beat talking about magical stones, Nathan, right?
Absolutely. You know, it makes me think about our, you know, what my ancestors, the Anishinaabe, call healing stones. And they're spears. And I was told that you could go to the Great Lakes and do ritual ceremony. And then there's a calling song that you go to the tide as the tide is coming in, and you sing this calling song, and allegedly from this ritual ceremony that the tide will roll these stones into you up on the shore. So when the tide goes out and you pay attention in your close vicinity, you'll find these, you know, tidal wave formed spheres. So imagine how many millions, billions, trillions of times that stone has to get rolled up and down the tide and rolled over those other rocks to gradually chip it away to the point of where it becomes a sphere. And I was bestowed one of these spheres that are actually part of our spiritual little boy drums. You know, there's 7 of these spheres. They're all about the size of about an inch in diameter. And they're used to put around this little drum that is the core of a tree, and it tightens the skin over the top of the drum the way that they twine it around the skin. And it's pretty remarkable, these stones. And when you go to ceremony, usually a lot of ceremonies, they'll have a little altar where you can put your healing stones and more or less recharge them.
Kev, you think about how often we've talked about, not like even small stones, but the bigger megalithic sites. And I remember having Sonia, and her second name escapes me now. She came all the way from Australia. And she was on the show talking about when she got a download from the pyramid by touching it. And we had Malaya on the show, had something similar when she went to the pyramid complexes in Mexico as well. And I think when we're looking at these massive stone structures, I think there's a lot more going on there than meets the eye. And when you start to get into the potential for stones being pieces of technology, that really takes it to the next level, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. And even, you know, I'm a collector of spheres, and I have a black onyx sphere that's about 12 inches in diameter, you know, and it is allegedly utilized to suck in negative energy and whatnot. I also have a crystal sphere that used to be flawless, and then somebody accidentally knocked it off the shelf, and it's no longer flawless, you know. But we utilize these things for their potential, or is there something to them if you think of the electromagnetic frequency that these spheres or stones or minerals will vibrate at. So they're pretty incredible.
Big time, dude. Big time. You know, Scotty, you're mentioning the ones that turned up, or the ones that reside in Scotland, and they're like the, how would you call it, the plutonic solids. We're going to take a look at them after I go over to the chat room. I'll let you get into them. But I remember myself and Anne and Kevin going down to Kelvin side, and they've got a museum down there, and we filmed them actually in there, and absolutely amazing. And you can see the detail in the pictures and things, granted, but when you're up close and you're looking at it and you're thinking, how on earth's name with bones and campfires are you able to create things like this, you know? So tonight, folks, we are getting into the world of magical stones. Make of that what you will. And this is going to be, actually, I think this is going to be really, really fascinating, because over the years we've been doing Freaky Friday, we've spoke a lot on different occasions about different stone sites, different properties that certain stones are said to have within them. So tonight, to bring it all together, I think it's going to show there's an abundance of evidence that around the world, there was something pretty magical. Yep, I'll use the word the guys used last night. Magical. On a par with, like Joe Joseph said, Scotty, reality is like Lord of the Rings. Even Schmeagol. So anyway, with that said, let me head on over to the craziest chat room on the internet. But it's got the coolest people in there. That's what makes it the craziest chat room. And it's over at tfrlive.com/chat. And there you've got me and Sophia being rather, well, we won't talk about what me and Sophia get up to. Nobody's interested apart from me and Sophia. We got Bam, 420. It's always 420 where Bam is. And Jimmy Jeans. We've got all one. Oh boy, it's the man, the myth, the dude with a cooler accent than me, Billy Ray Valentine. Man, I was on a 9/11 panel with him, Tony Adderburn, Don Jeffers. There was S90 from the Antidote, I think. Charlie Robinson was there. John Brisson. Really good conversation, yep. And we were over on, is it Rockfin? Have you tried that one, Scotty? Rockfin? Quite a good platform.
I never heard it, but check it out. Yeah, that sounds like quite the round table you guys had there.
Powerful, dude. Powerful.
It's a very impressive round table.
Listen, as a guy that deals in Loch Ness Monsters, Slender Man, The Rake, The Woo, I did feel just a little bit intimidated by the IQ power that was sat in front of me. Dude, I was like trying to add the IQ up, and the fact I couldn't add their IQ up should tell you something about my IQ. I just kept it bare minimum. All I know is it didn't go down the way that they told us that day. So, and that was it. Move on.
Yeah.
Any more than that? I left us, sounded a little bit like I knew what I was talking about. Just a little bit. So, remember, you can catch Billy Ray right here on the network. He's also over on Aftermath as well. In fact, Billy Ray, I was going to call him Virus there, because he's like a virus. He's all over the bloody internet, and it's great. We've got Little Giant. That's a paradoxical anomaly, if ever there was one. And talking of paradoxical anomalies, they're in the chat as well. Daryl Bowles. I tell you, Daryl, you've been here that long. I swear you're going to get parole soon. Honestly, we'll let you out soon, man. We've got Psycho Dave 321, Doug 777. Hey, Nacy, but what's all that 777 stuff about? You know how I love my gematria, right?
Well, 777 is also 21, and we're in 2021, September, another 7. Oh my gosh.
Always
Gematria
confuses
all
me
over
that
the
though,
place.
right? Because if it's a 7, why is it the 9th month?
Well, interesting enough that the originally New Year's was the equinox in spring. And so the 7th ember of the evening, September, was the 7th month of the year when you get ready to prepare for winter's coming. Winter's coming. Winter's coming.
What would we do without him, Scott?
You see, Kev, he set you straight on the sevens. Boy, he really tied that together really quick on the fly, didn't he?
I'm telling you, man, he
impressive.
sat there with the geometric. It's like a hyper-dimensional. He's like inside a quantum mainframe where there's just numbers flying everywhere, man. Connections coming.
It's like I'm picturing like Nase sitting there, and then like all of these like holographic, like like augmented reality, just numbers, just like popping up and rotating around him, and he's
like one of those
he's
plexus kind of effect worlds where all the dots are joining together. They've got nice little faces. They start to really coagulate, and now it's like the chronovisor opening up, you know?
Oh, I am like the operator in the Nebuchadnezzar operating in and out of the matrix on all multitudes.
Did you just
of
play the Nebuchadnezzar card in
dimensions.
section 1 of today's Freaky Friday?
yeah,
Did you?
he pulled
Wow.
he pulled a Nebuchadnezzar card. Nice.
Oh, yeah,
All
that's
right.
like dropping a Moab right out of the kind of blocks. Damn you! they
What,
say.
you don't like my temples?
No, I like your temples. I'm just trying to think how do
They're
me and
getting a
Scott
little bit of gray.
how do me and Scott even attempt to rival that? Anywho.
I bow.
Now Doug has
I-
informed us that, get this, I like it. Doug says my 3 names each have 7 letters. I'm gonna guess your first name's Douglas. But hey, do you think I got that one? Do you think I'm a psychic, Scott? You know the psychic powers there. Going by the name of Doug, he tells us his name's got 7 letters in it. I'm gonna guess it's Douglas. Yeah,
I'll
and
go.
his middle name is Eugene.
you think so?
Douglas Eugene.
Imagine we
His
get it. What?
last
See,
name
I got it
is
right. See, I'm going to move on now. I got
Schmiegel.
it right. So we've got Iesu
Douglas
Reloaded,
Eugene Schmiegel.
which sounds like a character out of the upcoming Matrix movie. We've got Jai G again. We have got Popular Human. Paradoxical Anomalies jumping about in there. We have also got the Wise Mind. There you go, folks. If I've missed anyone out, I will come back over there as time progresses. But Scotty Lopez, let's come to you. And how about some geometric stone spheres of Scotland? Some good Scottish balls to kick off today's show. How's that sound like?
Hey,
Hey,
you Scots definitely got balls, man. You got balls.
I mean, I'm not being crude or rude.
Stones.
I'm being very literal. Scott is going to address the world about Scottish balls. Are you not?
Yeah.
There you go. See.
So
Scottish eggs. Oh.
we're gonna head over to ancientorigins.net and one of these fantastic sites that I think is on par with like Mysterious Universe and stuff. They always are posting good stuff. So we are going to talk about the geometric stone spheres of Scotland, and I guess this is only part 1, but this will give us a nice little introduction to what these are all about. And as Kev said, he got to look at these things firsthand and take some pictures and get some video and everything like that. And I'm sure that was quite an amazing thing to see.
Thank goodness for mirrors.
So, the mysterious ancient spheres, and it says 420 geometric stone spheres have been found in the vicinity of Neolithic stone circles in northern Scotland, with 169 coming from Aberdeenshire alone, outside Scotland. Examples have been found in Ireland at Ballymania, I guess that's how you say that, and in England at Durham, Cumbria, Lowick, and Bridlington. One was recently spotted by the author over 6,000 miles away that came from an important megalithic pyramid site in South America. Most of the Scottish spheres are around 3 inches or 7.6 centimeters for those of you in across the pond in diameter, with some examples 3.6 inches or 9 centimeters in diameter, and date from.
So wait a minute, Scott. Wait a minute. You saying? Did I hear you say 369 in there?
Oh, yes, indeed. A 3, 6, and a 9. All right. Yeah. And a 7 was thrown in there too. So, you know what?
It's gonna be one of those nights.
Yeah, it's going to be one of those nights.
House playing bingo.
So apparently, I mean, this is these date from 3200 BC to 1500 BC. Some show beautiful craftsmanship and symmetry. Others show artistic mastery, while some look rough, badly made, or unfinished. However, some of the better preserved examples have diameters within 1 millimeter of each other. Most were all discovered within the vicinity of Neolithic monuments known as recumbent stone circles. The type of rock varies from easily carved sandstone and serpentine to difficult hard granite and quartzite. One of the most striking aspects of the spheres is the intricate geometry that appears to show the 5 Platonic solids, a long time before Plato was even born.
Right. See, then
So
let's kind of wait there, right? Because we find
Yeah.
them near to these stone sites, guys. Right. So my question that I'm thinking when I'm hearing this is one of two things. Could we be looking at, and don't like roll your eyes and call me a maniac right away, could we be looking at tools that enabled people that built these massive stone works? Were these things employed as a means of perhaps changing the environment around that area, perhaps changing the composition of the bigger stones, maybe having an effect on the local gravity, make it easier for them to move, or were these stones made within the stone circle and used as some kind of teaching device?
Pylons.
There you go.
Remember
There's
in
my
the-
starter, boys. I throw it out there to you both. What do you think?
Right away, it makes me think of the Land of the Lost when they had those pylons, and in the pylons they had like those tables that had all those different gems in different types of order, and if you change the order up, it would open up like a dimensional doorway.
When you
To
think
go
about what the
from one-
guys were talking about last night, Nacy, where you had to put the rocks into a certain configuration, a certain formation. They had to be
Absolutely.
lined up correctly and things like that. So, yeah, I feel you, man. Do you reckon,
Yeah,
Scotty?
because just like dialing in the radio.
Yeah.
Fine tune it.
Yeah. And it's very interesting because Stephen Strong said that if you configure these stones in a certain way, they can generate, even from what he said, more power than like a ley line or something like that, right? That you don't even need to put these things on ley lines or anything like that. That they can generate a lot of power just by configuring them in the correct way.
Because that's the thing, right? These things are sitting in a museum. And for all we know, they could be like some of the stones that the guys were talking about last night. They might literally have their own magical powers if they're in the hands of people who know what they're doing.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. I mean, these things could probably just be inert and not functioning unless somebody who actually knows what they're doing is able to place them in a proper configuration and know what needs to be done to essentially activate them. But I find it very interesting though that these stones are representing the Platonic solids, long before Plato So yeah, we'll get more into it whenever we get back, people, because these are fascinating. This is a very fascinating topic. So stay
Do
tuned.
us a solid. Come back after the break.
Welcome back. Second part of Freaky Friday. Already about to get underway. Remember to tell everyone that we are live on the home of Free Speech Radio, tfrlive.com, Truth Frequency Radio, your protection from deception. And on a Friday, it's where we dial up the woo to absolutely astronomical levels, because right after today's Freaky Friday, Brent Thomas and Don Longbeard will take you through the paranormal portal. 3 hours of this, 2 hours of the portal. Scotty, what more could you possibly hope for on a Freaky Friday? Eh?
It's fantastic, and the paranormal portal following Freaky Friday. Like I always say, it's a match made in heaven. It's like peanut butter and jelly. You can't have one without the other, and they have to be smushed together. So
it's all in the smooshing, man.
On the reservation, they have this sandwich called the Comfortably Numb, where it is a burger patty between 2 grilled cheese sandwiches.
Oh, okay.
I could handle that.
Yeah. I'm digging it.
And of course, Scotty, to be totally off on a tangent, we're going to be rushing off of here tonight after Freaky Friday because we've got wrestling to watch again, don't we, Scott?
A special 2-hour extravaganza tonight.
Absolutely, Scott.
You know what's up. Yep.
Absolutely.
We'll be there. AEW, baby. AEW. Yeah. Nice. Good stuff.
Anywho. Back to the Scottish balls. Where were we? Yeah, I think you were just about to tell us the postulations of the purpose of the balls, young man. So, what are the purpose of the well-endowed stone balls?
We need to find out what you Scots are using what were you using your balls for?
Well, we tend not to hide what we use them for. In fact, we're notorious for hanging them out when we wear the kilt. So there's no secrets, nothing, absolutely no secrets between Scotsmen. No.
So yes, here's some of the proposed theories on what they may have been used for. But before we get to that, we can actually see the picture there of the Platonic solids, right? The cube, the tetrahedron, the dodecahedron, the icosahedron, and the octahedron. All being represented long before the Platonic solids were.
What about made with frequency, man? What if they managed to turn rock into some really workable type of substance, and then they hit it with frequency, and when you're on the good note like cymatics, you get perfect one.
I was just about to say, what if we're looking at a 3D representation of some kind of a cymatic frequency?
Well, the one solid that they forget a lot is the sphere itself. And then when you look at the next one from the sphere, you have the 4-sided pyramid, but it's actually 4 equilateral triangles. And if you take all of those edges and you add up the frequency of that, it has to do with some of the periodic chart. And then when you go from that solid to the cube, and then you add up all the edges on the cube, and that frequency gives you another set of parallel elements on the table of elements. I just forgot the name of the chart again.
The periodic elements.
Periodic table, thank you. And then you can also see in the timeline of the great pharaohs of Egypt, they also ironically equal a frequency to them that parallel the frequency of the Platonic solids when it is put into a frequency aspect. Cymatics.
Didn't when we had Max on, Kev, and he was talking about a lot of the stuff from Nordic lore and all that, how like things were starting to line up with the periodic table of elements, and so I think that kind of ties into a lot of this as well. So deep stuff. It's a deep rabbit hole, my friend. So yeah, let's get into what supposedly some of the theories of what these stones were being used for. It says postulations of purpose. It says they fit nicely into one's hand, and this convenient size saw them described as hunting projectiles, fishing weights, and in 1876, J. Alexander Smith said that they could have been attachments to wooden handles to make axe-like weapons. In her exhaustive study of the balls in 1976 and 1970, Proceedings of the Society of Antiquaries in Scotland.
An absolutely fantastic read, by the way. I get that every year. That's riveting stuff.
Riveting
stuff, yeah.
Yeah. Dorothy N. Marshall. Dorothy N. Marshall replied, "When one appreciates the skill and time which has been used in the fashioning of these balls, it does not seem possible that the owner would have risked their loss or damage in war or chase. As no evidence of damage has been found on them, she might be right." Marshall also relates the theory that the balls may have been used in competitive throwing games, but argues, if this had been the case, surely more balls would have been shipped.
She does make a point. It might be like stating the glaringly obvious, but she has a point.
Yeah. I mean, if people were lobbing these things around and using them in some kind of a game or competition, they would have had some kind of wear and tear or been chipped or something like that. So,
now I must say, looking at this next map of Scotland, something does strike me as rather suspicious, because there's a preponderance of these balls turn up around the east coast and around the Aberdeen area, which is synonymous with men having relations with sheep. So I'm not ruling out the fact that they may have at one time been used as some kind of weapon to slow down the sheep. I'm just throwing it out there. I can only be as honest as the day is long, Scots. Aberdeen, things are different. I can tell you, people definitely fashion their balls up there. But it's a thing.
You think they may have possibly been used to, incapacitate?
I wouldn't like to. I wouldn't like to cast aspersions at any of my fellow countrymen. But if it's going to happen anywhere, it's probably going to happen on the East Coast.
Okay, well, I mean, we have Kev's theory out here, which
it's offended every Aberdonian that might ever have listened to me. But hey, it's a risk I take.
Hey, it's a valid theory that deserves a
no, it's a theory, just an observation, a casual anecdotal observation.
Just another data point to add to the. Okay. Several further theories have surfaced since then. So hey, Kev, maybe you're onto something.
Who knows, man?
In 1914, Ludovic Mann suggested they were used as weights as part of some kind of scales. Due to their exact size and geometry, one hypothesis says that they were used to roll the megaliths across vast distances. Another theory is that the balls were used as oracles by rolling them on the ground and interpreting the future from both the way they rolled and their positions at rest. Author Laird Scranton noticed some artists rolling similar balls around in a small sand bowl. He concluded, it looks like an artistic hobby, likely produced sand art toys. I don't know about all that, but these are just the ideas being thrown out here. And as you can see, there are there are kind of similar looking things that are being done in our modern society with things like this, but I don't know if people had the time back then to be doing sand art. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, maybe, but
It seems a bit
probably
woke for seems a bit woke for such primitive times. What are we all going to do today? We're going to go hunting. No, we're going to hang out with Jeff and we're going to craft ourselves some nicely shaped balls. I don't know. That sounds like the woke corner of the camp, man.
Well, the intricacy that it would take, to make a sphere, that ain't no easy task. You need to have like tools and, pretty much a compass, to make a sphere. And then just imagine, having to chip that down and then sand it down. And that's a cumbersome
Not if you
endeavor.
come with technology that has the potential to shape stone. Maybe you pour said stone into a press. It's already been brought here from, I don't know, Zeta Reticuli or the Pleiades, and maybe the compass, and the tools or something, Kev. That we
blew their horns.
Yeah, we kind of we think about that because that's how we do things today. I don't know. I think there was something. I don't know, dude.
I
but
imagine
you're right.
I imagine like an electromagnetic press where like they're using sound to vibrate it. And so then it makes the stone malleable.
Well, we're going to look at some giant stone balls later from Costa Rica. In fact, around the world. Anne's getting a right kick out of tonight's show. I'm hearing a lot of giggling coming in the background. Yeah. Indeed.
I'm sure she is.
She's probably sitting on the phone with her sisters and they're going, what the hell is he talking about? Magical balls, everyone. Magical balls.
In Costa Rica, ¿dónde está el huevos?
Oh, please talk to me in français. I do not understand the Costa Rican.
Oh, the French do enjoy their balls quite well too.
They do. Yep, indeed.
Oh, continuing on here.
Anywho, sorry for rudely interrupting.
Recent research has speculated they are representations of pollen or even atoms. Ooh, now that could be some interesting. That's an interesting. I'm liking that one. How they would have been able to see microscopic particles like this was not confirmed. They have been described as ceremonial talking balls, which one would hold whilst speaking in a group. Yeah. Hey, I like to hold my balls while I'm talking to somebody, so it's just but
a collection of talking balls in a gathering. Sorry,
I'm trying to behave. Usually it's me that takes things into the gutter, but
hey, you know what? Look, Kev, we all knew this was going to be unavoidable.
We did, to be fair.
So we might as well just go with it. Just go with it and let the balls land where they may.
Exactly, dude. Exactly.
Yeah. So,
I definitely want to know if my balls are going to be talking to any of your guys' balls without me knowing. So if you hear anything on the street, let me know because I've been paying attention to what they're saying.
Hey, I'll be watching.
You like the ball whisperer? Who knew? Wow. Come on, man. They said in the article it's a talking ball. You whisper to it. What can I say? It's a stretch, I know, but come on, Scott. An ancient portfolio. What next?
Yes. It says the best explanation I've heard comes from researcher Jeff Nesbitt, who believes they were used by budding megalithic architects as a symbol of their skill of working stone. I think Jeff is onto something here, and this is from the author of the article, by the way, for those of you listening.
You think you would have like architects facing off against each other ready to draw balls on one another at dawn. Balls out. Know what I'm saying?
His are
I
smoother than mine.
Yeah.
Hey, he's like, let me see your balls so I can compare them to my balls.
Absolutely.
So there you go.
You mean you didn't get
Yeah,
beyond the tetrahedron? Go home. Go
But
home.
we've got the biggest balls of them all. My balls are always
Exactly.
bouncing.
Right. I'm going to shut up. Scott, it's all you.
So it says, I think Jeff is onto something here, as they are all following a certain design specification that stretches all over Scotland and northern England. Your carved stone sphere represented your current skill set, much like a CV or resume of today. However, the lack of them found in graves may indicate that they were not considered to belong to individuals, so may have been passed on to the new graduates. A very interesting take on it. The Scottish stone spheres were labeled as projectiles for almost a century. Originally, they were thought to be Iron Age Pictish creations. The Picts, Kev.
The good old Picts, yep.
Yep. As many of them were found in their territory. However, further discoveries pushed the origins back to at least 2500 BC. So that predates the mainstream date of the pyramids, right? By what, 500 years, something along the line. So due to their proximity to stone circles, as Jeff suggested, these strange spheres may have been part of the megalith builder's toolkit. It is the fine carving of precision spirals that resemble many found in megalithic sites such as Newgrange. The famous Towie stone is the most accomplished sphere with beautiful workmanship and artistic flair. And there's a picture of it right there, and that's an amazing piece of work. I mean, that's a very intricate design.
You know who really opened my eyes to a lot of this stuff, Scott, and really blew me away with his linking it all into, like it mentioned there, Newgrange. You mentioned him last night. James Swagger, man. When he started to get into this stuff, and he really kind of focused in on the acoustics and the way the buildings were built, the fact that it would have been conducive to creating standing waves. There was like audio effects when you were stood in one part of the structure, you couldn't hear anything, but if you stood in a specific bit different, you'd hear it like it was roaring through your ear. The acoustic qualities and properties to these things can't be ignored. And when I'm looking at this again, that picture you just showed there, and I dropped it over at the TFR chat room. I mean, all of these spirals, all of these kind of interconnecting rings and things. I don't know, dude. There's something vibrational, something frequency about it.
I was just about to say, it looks like, I mean, just looking at it, it's almost like it's a representation of like, if you're looking at a oscilloscope, right? And you're looking at the frequency pattern or the wave pattern of something, or that something had imprinted or we're talking about some kind of like frequency generation or something along those lines. It's very, very...
I mean, and then you've got three like irregular, like the same size of holes in the center there, like indents in it, in between the major bases of the thing. I mean, what's the purpose of that? It's like there's a lot going on with these things. They're not just they're not just ornaments. No way.
Well, one thing that
go ahead, man.
One thing that I keep thinking about is on Lord of the Rings, when they had those crystal spheres and they were utilizing them to communicate with each other. And that reminded me about the allegations that Albert Pike, the writer of Moral and Dogma, and take a couple moments to look at that entity's background, but allegedly he had some communication spheres that could actually transmit and receive And I've pondered this too, because if you have a big enough chunk of quartz and you carve 2 or 3 spheres out of that same chunk of quartz, wouldn't in theory they all resonate at the same frequency, thus being able to more or less telephone each other? The cell phones are just mimicking the old technologies of our past.
I suppose if you found a way of entangling them, or
yeah, I think and it makes me think of what Stephen Strong was talking about yesterday, right? Where he was saying, everybody who has held those stones, like a part of them is imprinted into it, right? What if this was also a way of transferring knowledge to somebody, right?
Oh, it's a judgment stone. Some extraterrestrial race is going to come back and say, all right, we're here to collect our stone. And then they retrieve the stone and then they download what it went through. And they're like, all right, let the asteroid hit them.
Hey, I mean, but say maybe an elder or someone that had a lot of wisdom or something, owned one of these stones or had one, and and then was able to hand it down to like maybe an apprentice or hand it down to one of their children or something, and then by them,
I like this, dude. I like it.
Interacting with the stone and touching it, they receive kind of a download of the elder before them, right? So
and maybe not everyone does. Maybe it's a way of telling if that potential candidate, whatever they're going for, whether they're actually the right one.
Oh, like the Dalai Lama grabbing the artifacts of the past Dalai Lama, allegedly, when they go to choose that. It makes me think of that movie Dragon Slayer, where the old wizard guy, he died, but he did it intentionally because he wouldn't be able to handle the trip. And then when they get to where they're supposed to be, the guy shatters the crystal and abracadabra, the wizard appears. Using it to transport yourself. Wow.
Maybe. I mean, and Evan and Stephen Strong yesterday were talking about how, like, not just anybody can handle these stones, and in a way it's almost like the stone has to choose you. Not everybody is going to feel the effects of this stuff. It's almost like you have to be worthy or something, that there has to be some kind of it kind of makes a choice on who it wants to impart its knowledge or abilities on. So very interesting. So before we go to break here, I'll continue on a little bit more here. It says, across the pond on the other side of the Atlantic, near the incredible megalithic pyramid site of Tiwanaku, a solitary and unique stone sphere was discovered, alongside identical spiral carvings like those we found in Neolithic Britain and Malta and New Zealand, etc. I visited the Tiwanaku Museum in La Paz as part of the annual Megalithomania tour with Brian Forster in November 2014. On display was something that took my breath away. It was one of the Scottish stone spheres. It had 6 knobs on it, the most common style found in Scotland, and the size and style matched their transatlantic fellow masons eerily perfectly. How did this find its way 6,000 miles across the Atlantic Ocean, down the Amazon, and into the highlands of Bolivia? Interesting question.
Probably another act of magic, like the DNA from Australians ending up in the Amazon and some of the tribes as well. Just a miracle how these things happen, you know? They just turn up there. Don't worry about it, man.
Hey, we all know that ancient, Australian
Primitive
DNA.
hunter-gatherers kicking about with bones, climbing trees, hunting chickens.
Hey.
Don't worry about it.
They did all this with chicken bones, Kev. Don't worry about it.
The humble chicken bone is probably the most undersold utensil on the planet. That's all I'm going to say.
Donde está el spear?
Yep.
Mm.
Do you think a Swiss chicken bone has got like attachments that come off it? Like wishbone out? Yep.
Oh, good question.
Yeah.
Good question.
There you go.
See?
Mm-hmm. We're almost on the break again, Scotty. Again.
Yeah. This is good. This is good stuff. I mean,
well, how about you hold on to your balls for 3 minutes? We'll come back on the other side and we will take this even deeper. We'll go beyond the tip. We'll go past the balls. We're going deep woo, ladies and gentlemen. Don't go anywhere.
Spears deep.
Yes, indeed. We are back and we are live, ladies and gentlemen, and we are moving in to hour number 2 already. Can you believe it? It's been a quick one so far. Good fun today, light-hearted, a lot of talking about magical balls, but we're literally talking about magical stone spheres to keep it more adult. Don't worry, we'll descend back into the humour in a moment. But Scotty, these Scottish balls in particular, pretty mind-boggling, huh?
Yeah, and then the fact that all of a sudden we're finding the same things over in Peru, right? Or Bolivia, I should say. What's going on here? Either we have groups of individuals that, by all accounts, from what we're told, should have been isolated, either doing the exact same thing coincidentally, or there was some kind of travel going around in a common sort of technology or knowledge of some sort that was being shared amongst many civilizations.
Or perhaps whoever was custodians of the planet at that time were setting up outposts and training centers, education centers. I don't know, dude. All I know is it's bugger all like what the textbooks tell us. That's all I do know.
Who would have knew in Bolivia or Peru you would find a few, maybe 2 or more gathered spheres to tune in or tune out, dial in the right frequency. If it's on the ley line, then you can travel from one place to another. Dimensional rip, tear, space-time continuum. Let's go. Count me in.
Yeah, and, so, a lot of these were based off the Platonic solids. What if each one had its own specific purpose or, a thing that it was able to achieve depending on the Platonic solid that it was based around, right? Who knows? This is just, it's very fascinating. So, continuing on here, it says, on a previous visit to Tiwanaku in 2007, the author said, I spotted a double spiral pattern on one of the blocks in the on-site museum that, again, had an uncanny resemblance to the Scottish stone carvings from the Neolithic area. It says the original was a quadruple spiral, but the stone broke in 2. It says it is hard to ignore the megalithic technology present in both these parts of the world. Did the megalithic Scottish stonemasons really make their way to South America in prehistory? It's an interesting question. says, hopefully you can now see how these spheres turn out to be such an enigmatic artifact. Not only is their purpose perplexing, but at an age of over 5 millennia, they are remarkably sophisticated. And then he goes on that there's a whole part 2 of this, but I think that gives us a pretty good rundown of these spheres in Scotland, and apparently very similar spheres in Bolivia as well. So fascinating stuff. And like you said, Kev, I mean, this throws me back to the stuff that Swagger talked about, and you know, the acoustics and all of that stuff. Very fascinated. Very fascinating. I will read this last little part, though, because it is interesting. And for those who want to maybe go and read part 2 of this on Ancient Origins, it says, we will consider the significance of the advanced geometry of the spheres, their relation to the Platonic solids, the pollen theory, and what the detailed cataloging of their designs might tell us. Finally, what are the possibilities for connections to the heavens or healing? And that takes us back to the stuff we were talking about yesterday with Evan and Stephen Strong, you know, these star rocks and their ability to heal or harm depending on how they're being utilized. You know, I think that's a very important thing to note as well.
And the fact, I mean, I think during the conversation, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, we were getting into the realm of some of these possibly coming from off-world. The Pleiades was mentioned. We'd talk of Atlantis yesterday as well. For anyone who hasn't caught that, you can find it in the archive on tfrlive.com. Go to the Kev Baker Show. That was in hour number 2. So also over on YouTube right now if you want to watch that. But don't forget, coming up this weekend, we've got the latest conference with the guys. They'll be going deeper. It's ouralienancestry.net for anyone who wants to check that out. I know myself and Scotty Lopez will be tuning into that. And talking to the guys down under, yesterday I mentioned to them the Charinga stone. Now, in conversation with our good friend Donnie, who often watches the show, he's been with us here before as well, he reminded me the name of the lady I was thinking about and the story I was thinking about. And it's a story about somebody called Valerie Barrow. I'm just making sure I've got the right place here before we get going, Scotty boy. Yes, indeed. I'm going to read from a book now. Just a couple of pages from Hybrid. In fact, let me get the correct title before we go anywhere. Exogenesis Hybrid Humans. It's a book by Bruce Fenton and Daniela Fenton. I've had Bruce on the show before. He is meant to be coming back on sometime soon, so keep an eye open for that. But this is where I first came across this story about the Charinga stone. So I'm going to read this here. So sit back, enjoy this. I think it's mind-blowing. And it just fits so perfectly as a supplementary piece of information to what we got into yesterday. So it says, in 1994, a mysterious visitor arrived at the home of Valerie Barrow in Canyon Lee, New South Wales in Australia, a psychic medium and a holistic therapist. Now, the visitor was a media professional named Helen, and she brought with her an object about the size of a shoebox. Whatever it was had been wrapped in paper bark and further covered by a white calico cloth tied with string. Now, the woman claimed that the object was a sacred Aboriginal Charinga stone that she was trying to return to its traditional Aboriginal keepers, believed to reside somewhere in the region around Uluru. It's got Ayers Rock in brackets there, close to Alice Springs in the Northern Territory. Now, at the time, Valerie was living in a house that she had named, get this, Al Charinga, an Australian Aboriginal word from the Central and Northern Territories regions. Excuse me. Now, Al Charinga refers to the period in which the first ancestors of humanity were created by powerful cosmic spirits, also more widely known as the dream time. The word Charinga is closely related to the term Charinga, which donates a sacred artifact imbued with valuable information. Charingas come in different forms with distinct importance and purported functions. Some are fixed in place and represent the inhabitants of the dreaming, being associated with a site and totemic spirits of a local population. The Aranda people refer to these Nanja-type Charingas in terms somewhat akin to the American Indian totem pole, which are also sometimes used by Aboriginal people. There are links between these Kananja and fertility rites, as well as reincarnation lore. The souls of local people are sometimes considered to be fractals of the consciousness housed in the Charinga. I can't help but see the mental image of the early hominids gathered around Kubrick's Black Sentinels as I think about this type of monolithic Charinga. Smaller, more portable Charinga of wood or stone, Indula Rakura, are said to carry the individual spirits of non-human dreamtime entities. Typically, these objects are decorated with sacred red ochre symbols, such as boomerangs, concentric circles, wavy lines, the kind of thing that our good friend, Wayne, when he was on the show,
Wayne.
showing his
I
art.
was just
Yep,
going to say.
very much.
Yeah, I kept looking at that stone that you have on the. I mean, it looks almost identical to one of Wayne's
Yep.
paintings. Remember with he had the concentric circles that were connected and all of that. It looks just like that kind of stuff. So it's wild, man.
This goes on here. It says, this is the type we are more concerned with. Now, the Aboriginal people understand that the genuinely ancient Charinga are considered the most sacred. These original Charinga carry privileged information reserved only for certain qualified elders with the correct levels of spiritual initiation. Now, these spiritual elders are known as clever men, women, and are akin to shaman or medicine men of other cultures. The oldest of these stone artifacts are claimed to be imbued with the consciousness of ancestral spirits from the Charinga creation times, the time before time. These Charinga beings can purportedly take incarnations into human form while still having some part of themselves remaining rooted in the matrix of their stone receptacle. Though today many Charinga stones are acknowledged to be copies of the legendary original examples, it will soon become evident that the one which reached Valerie was no modern replica. The Aboriginal lore we have explored should be considered more closely for a moment. It sounds very much like a metaphysical, cultural narrative woven around extraterrestrial artifacts. Consider for a moment that perhaps the Aboriginal people had come to possess a compact silica-based Bracewell probe, complete with an onboard AI. At some stage, the resident consciousness of the ancient Charinga stone acquired its pre-programmed signal to activate and began communicating with the local people. It might also be that there are incredibly ancient beings that long ago transcended biology and can direct their consciousness into any physical matter they wish to occupy. This is my favoured position, and the one that best fits the Aboriginal lore. These scenarios both match well with the belief that the object is a receptacle of an ancient spirit from the creation times, and that it carried incredible secret knowledge. Either way, we have the expected signature of highly advanced extraterrestrial or interdimensional intelligence. So upon meeting, Helen explained to Valerie that a chain of synchronicity had brought her to the house with its unusual name. Helen felt that Valerie was the right person to temporarily look after the sacred object until she recovered from a severe health condition. Valerie later discovered that it was also hoped that if Helen did not improve, then the responsibility of custodianship would be transferred. Now, Valerie took pity on Helen and agreed to keep the artifact in her home until it was again retrieved. Now, at that time, she had no idea it was anything more than an old stone wrapped in paper bark. She respectfully placed it into a small box and put it away in her healing room for safekeeping. Valerie never directly touched or even looked at this artifact, and it always remained within the wrappings. This felt to her the culturally sensitive thing to do, as such artifacts are reserved for Aboriginal ceremonial purposes. Even among Aboriginal people, only those appointed would ever handle these artifacts. Indeed, most Indigenous people are scared of being near such powerful objects. Now, interestingly, remember that Kayentse Choge Wangchug instructed people not to touch the strange glowing sphere he had helped to recover. It may be that alien engineered objects involve energy that is in some way harmful when directly handled. There is some reason to suspect a mutagenic effect of alien energy sources with resultant modification of human DNA. Now, this possibility has been discussed in ongoing cutting-edge research being carried out by Dr. Christopher Kit Green, formerly the CIA branch chief for life science in the Office of Scientific Intelligence, and his collaborator, Gary Nolan, PhD, a geneticist at Stanford University. Nolan is famous for analysing the controversial Atacama alien mummy. Now, Nolan and Green have both worked in advisory capacities for TTSA. Green is formerly a team member of Project Stargate. They have identified a possibility that people encountering anomalous phenomena have resultant DNA anomalies. One suspicion emerging from their research is the possibility of an epigenetic effect resulting from contact with extraterrestrial energies. And it says, so remember, kids, don't touch the monolith. So it says, in 2012, Daniela and I co-authored the book 2012 Rising, The Last Zolkeen, Warnings from the Maya and the Pleiadians. Included in the book were details of our personal contact with extraterrestrial intelligence. One of our readers recognised a connection between some of our accounts and the work of the Australian father and son research team, Stephen and Evan Strong. Hey!
Hey.
Communication was established, and after some conversations, we all decided to work on a book together. This collaborative relationship resulted in our co-authoring the 2013 book, Ancient Aliens in Australia, Pleiadian Origins of Humanity. Now, during the latter part of the writing process, one of our co-authors mentioned a book called Charinga, When the First Ancestors Were Created. Now, this was out in 2002. It says they revealed that it was the overlap between my personal experiences and the content of that book that had convinced them we were telling the truth. We bought a copy of the Charinga book from its author, Valerie Barrow, and read the entire book in a single, enthralled sitting. Through this chain of events, we eventually ended up involved with the research project detailed in the current book. Now, no matter how odd the individual events involved, there is more coherent, bigger picture visible once we zoom out and see that these events in greater perspective. Even the shamanic journeys to Palenque and many of my personal experiences are yet other facets of this extraterrestrial contact continuum. So it says you can probably get some idea of what Charinga, When the First Ancestors Were Created, is about just from its title. At the core of the story, it's claimed extraterrestrial involvement in the origins of Homo sapiens. We were both amazed to discover that this book involved some of the same types of entities that we had been involved in in our own otherworldly experiences. It seemed that Valerie had been gifted with a huge download of information relating to an ancient ETI, extraterrestrial intelligence genetic engineering program on this planet. Though the book does not offer much in the way of objective evidence to support the events described, we had our own reasons to suspect that it detailed actual occurrences from the remote past. So it says, before providing our validation of these accounts offered by Valerie Barrow, we must first introduce a little of her material, though it is not essential to have read Charinga when the first ancestors were created. Before reading the remainder of this book, it certainly helps to have a copy available. I share only the basic overview and highlight the most spectacular claims. My focus is on those elements that I identified as being essential to validate. So, Scott, I'm going to scroll about here and find where we get to the actual. In fact, I think it's just coming up in a moment. I'm going to get a drink of my coffee, take a breath. What do you think, boys? What do you think?
It's absolutely fascinating, you know, and to know that she had this interaction with this Charinga stone and received a download, basically, is you know, quite amazing. And you know, we've heard about this many times with people, right, that say that they have touched megaliths or touched the pyramids, you know, or things like that, and they feel like that they have received some kind of a download. It's almost like they synced up with it, right? They managed to somehow, you know, be in phase with whatever was going on, and they received a download. So very, very interesting.
What do you
no doubt.
say before I dive into what happened to Valerie and the stone? It was actually the next paragraph. We were almost there. So they say, any thoughts before I continue this?
So right away, I imagine in my head that...
Well, that's better than imagining in your giant stone ball.
That all of a sudden these spheres appear, and the governments of the world are like dragging these spheres around the world, paying attention to everybody that comes in contact with them to see if there's some type of extrasensory perception of these spheres. And then all of a sudden they notice, after 1 million people, you know, come within a 3-foot radius of these spheres, and then somebody is all of a sudden like, what is that I sense? You know, and then all of a sudden they're turned on, you know, because these spheres happen to resonate at your frequency. And so you're connected by your genetic composition. I see the screen play already, you know, where, you know, we're trying to find out what is the reason for these spheres, and is there something more to it that the right individual coming in contact is able to receive the download, receive the data stream, and be like, oh shit, it is going to come. Oops.
Yes, pardon you. Anywho.
But all of a sudden it's like, yeah, Nibiru is coming next week.
I mean, you know, you know, a lot of these people, what if they're walking around and they, like Nase said, you know, what if they just are operating on the same frequency, don't even realize it, right? And then they walk by one of these things, or they come into close contact with it, and just because they seem to be resonating at at the same resonant frequency or something as one of these artifacts, in a way they've already been chosen, right? Because they carry the proper their genetics and everything are tuned to it.
Then it kind of to a rock shop. You know, you gone to a rock shop, or even like you've gone out into the wilderness or something, and you come across that stone where you feel a strong connection to it. Or, you know, at the rock shop, all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, that amethyst is really resonating well with me, you know, and you buy it because of such a feeling.
Indeed,
Mhm.
indeed. Well, let's get another little bit before we go to the break. Squeeze this in. This should be
All
a
right.
good kind of crescendo to take us up to halfway through Freaky Friday. It says, soon after the stone arrived, Valerie was woken from her sleep by a disembodied voice that asked her if she was ready to write a book. The conversation between Valerie and the discarnate voice continued over time, and she was informed that she was in communication with a star person connected with the artifact. The entity referred to itself as Charinga and claimed that the object in the box was imbued with invaluable information brought to Earth almost 900,000 years ago. The Charinga
Wow.
being initially made itself known via a form of voice-to-skull communication. The communication was not audible but received telepathically. The experience would be like that of a psychic mediumship though there are technologies that emulate this communicative process. One team of researchers at MIT has found a way to use lasers to direct information right into a person's ear. This is a photoacoustic effect, the result of material such as water vapor in the air absorbing light and forming sound waves. We can safely assume an advanced alien civilization will have moved far beyond such methods and found far more direct means of communication, essentially synthetic telepathy. The object contained highly advanced intelligence, an uploaded aspect of consciousness that we might think as a post-biological entity. At a later stage, the entity stated that it was able to influence humans so they would carry it around to locations it wanted to move to, using a very active form of subconscious psychic suggestion. It seems quite logical to suspect that the Charinga was the personality for an AI technology, functioning as a monitoring and recording sentinel that we'll get into on the other side. Don't go anywhere, folks. Deep Woo. We'll be right back. Welcome back, you crazy animals out there. Moving into the second half of today's Freaky Friday, but give me a moment. I'm going to sort Skype. There we go. I'll get rid of that hiss. There we go. There we go. Skype hiss has been tamed. The back sheet is ready.
Jai Hind.
Exactly. We are ready to get back into it. Guys, the Charinga stones. Ooh, it's starting to get even deeper now. Even more mysterious. And even a shout out to the boys from last night. Can't get much better than that, right?
Oh, dude, absolutely fantastic. I mean, the level of woo that this whole topic has, it's wild, man. And, I was thinking during the break, right? Like, if I were an advanced alien civilization or alien species, right? And, let's look at what we're currently trying to do, as a species ourselves, right? The big thing right now is what life extension technology, that goal that we're trying to achieve of immortality, which I don't think we'll ever be able to achieve that, but we want to try to extend our lives to the greatest extent possible. And I would assume that other civilizations or other species across the universe would probably try to do the same thing. So what better way, Kev, to extend your life or extend than to completely transcend the need of an organic based body, right? If you could find a way to transfer your soul, I guess, your consciousness, the energetic core of who you are, if you were able to figure a way to transfer that into something that essentially will take however long to break down, as long as that object is still intact, then whatever resides in it is going to remain intact, right? And we talk about how, all of these ancient civilizations that seemingly had high technology, why were they using stone as a medium? Why weren't they using things like steel or a lot of these other mediums that we currently use to build or to create these megalithic things? And I think it's because stone, especially certain types of stone that have a certain makeup, Naysay mentioned, quartz crystal or something along those lines, is something that is able to be easily imprinted with something. I think that stone was probably the best way that they could utilize embedding themselves into, and then being able to essentially live for eons, or if you wanted to do interplanetary travel, Kev, say, imbue yourself into a rock that is launched across, interstellar space, and if you survive the trip through the atmosphere and you hit the planet, there you are. You're an entity that is just sitting there kind of waiting to be found or waiting to interact with whatever species may exist on that planet. I don't know, man. It's very deep.
Very deep indeed. Let's go deeper. It says here, it seems quite logical to suspect that, and don't worry guys, not much more reading, and then you can take it away. It seems quite logical to suspect that the Charinga was the personality for an AI technology functioning as a monitoring and recording sentinel until the appropriate moment for open contact had been reached by our species. It might even be that it encountered some pre-specified electromagnetic frequency associated with our technological development. Now, intuitive people such as Daniela and I are intimately familiar with this type of subliminal communication process. It is possible to psychically receive sensations, vivid imagery, or sudden spontaneous knowing. Once this powerful process of communication had been initiated, Valerie began to gain an enormous amount of information concerning an ancient extraterrestrial visitation to our planet. Charinga explained to Valerie that she would soon start meeting people connected with the extraterrestrial mission. These other individuals would help to reveal the role this event had played in human origins. This prediction came to pass just as the entity said it would, with more than 30 people eventually proving or providing relevant past life memories for the book Charinga when the first ancestors were created. Soon after communication began with Valerie, events began to unfold with plenty of high strangeness. One of Valerie's friends, Rachel, was driving with a respected Aboriginal healer, Jerry, near Valerie's house. At the mention of the particular Aboriginal name of the house, Jerry suggested that they make a visit. Valerie was somewhat surprised to meet Jerry, as she had not had much direct contact with Australia's Indigenous peoples. That this visit coincided with receiving an Aboriginal sacred artifact seemed to her beyond coincidence. While talking, Valerie had a sudden, strong sense that Jerry already knew that she had the stone. She mentioned it, and he immediately snapped back that it was men's business. Now, it's true that Charinga stones are directly handled only by initiated men in Aboriginal culture. Once Valerie explained how the rock had come to her and that it was kept wrapped up and safely secured in a box, Jerry seemed satisfied. Valerie's offer for Jerry to see the stone was quickly declined. He looked slightly scared by the thought of handling the object, even with it wrapped. After some conversations about the Charinga stone, Jerry mentioned that one of his friends had also interacted with an unseen being that referred to itself as Charinga. He then suggested they all visit a sacred site with engraved hieroglyphs located near the town of Gosford in New South Wales. Jerry asked Valerie to bring the artifact, as perhaps the voice of the stone would speak to them on site. Valerie agreed and immediately remembered that the Charinga had told her that he would one day talk through her to an Aboriginal person. So today, the hieroglyphs engaged on a stone feature near Gosford have become somewhat famous, but things were not that way when Valerie visited the site more than 20 years ago. The rock bluff with these symbols is itself an Aboriginal site, irrespective of the exact provenance of the hieroglyphs. Many people consider the glyphs, most of which look Egyptian, to be a peculiar hoax, merely modern additions to an Aboriginal site. Witness accounts exist, suggesting that some of the symbols are recent creations. However, this hoax claim seems to readily account for only a portion of the symbols. Valerie visited the site for the first time accompanied by Jerry and her friend Karen. Their experiences were somewhat more intense and otherworldly even than my own. After touching the glyphs and then moving to a higher part of the rocky outcrop, Charinga spoke through Valerie and announced that he had known the three individuals for many lifetimes. The being continued, explaining that all those present had a direct connection to the star people. Charinga told them that many of the glyphs had been cut by extraterrestrial beings and that life forms from numerous worlds had visited Earth over millions of years. These visitations involved directly influencing the development of life on this planet. Before departing, Charinga mentioned that the glyphs would eventually help to awaken many people. Jerry then led the trio to a point known as Whale Rock, overlooking the Brisbane waters. As they arrived, they all began to feel quite peculiar. There was a rock feature that looked like a stone bed melted into a large boulder. This strange stone bed-like depression comfortably allowed one person to lie down. Now, Jerry mentioned that in past times Aboriginal women used this as a birthing place, lying down as they entered labour. Karen promptly lay down within the depression and closed her eyes. The trio shortly found themselves spontaneously shifting into an altered state of consciousness. They were no longer in their natural bodies, and the scene around them suggested it was not the present day. Their bodies were now strange alien forms, with long, slender limbs, light bluish-grey skin, and elongated heads. Down below in the Bay of Brisbane, a crashed saucer-shaped craft was slowly sinking. And this is the part of the story where I always get the goosebumps, Donny boy. Always get the goosebumps, my man. It's like we're reading our story, Donny, right? Above the wrecked ship, another hovered in the air, plucking survivors from the sea. Valerie noticed a pod of dolphins was even helping to push some of the floundering humanoids towards the shore. This type of vivid experience is known as a spontaneous past life recall, or you might also have heard it as a time slip. One moment we are here in the present, and the next we're a person living in a different time. When Daniela and I corresponded with the head of the Perceptual Studies Department at University of Virginia, Dr. Bruce Grayson, he suggested the term retrocognition to describe Daniela's personal journeys into the past. Now, such events happened to many people, though they don't commonly involve extraterrestrial beings, and you can find many relevant books and articles on the subject. They are entirely immersive. You feel that this is a direct, real-life experience that you're having, unlike a conventional memory. Having had such experiences, Daniela and I can both fully empathise with how Valerie and her friends would have felt. While in another person's body, you also have access to their emotions, their thoughts, their memories, not just the immediate sensory input. In past life therapy, a healing modality in which I am qualified, people can be deliberately taken through these types of experiences to resolve past life issues affecting their present lives today. So back to Valerie and her two companions, the experience being marooned survivors from a mission to Earth. They were aware of a plan that had involved a collective of many benevolent non-human species. The stellar journey had begun in the Pleiades star cluster, even though the various species involved did not necessarily originate in that region of space. Two locations linked to the aliens came to Valerie's mind, one being Lyra, Lyra, and another that sounded somewhat like Altair or Altair. Residents of many planetary systems were understood to be involved, and the ship had travelled from the Pleiades Nebula, the location of the spatial anomaly which provided the gateway to Earth. After the shared experience had finished, Valerie pieced together everything she could from her companions, including information from a related dream Jerry had years before. In Jerry's earlier dreams, he had experiences being on board the mothership as a surprise attack began, with warnings going off around him. I tell you, I wish you could see the goosebumps on my arm here just reading this. This is crazy. This is what happened the first time I read this stuff. This is the feeling that this is why I don't like hanging out with Donnie. There's a weirdness. There's a weirdness, Scott. There's a weirdness going on. You know I ain't like that. You know I'm not that guy. So this is like, I don't know. It goes on to say, wow. In Jerry's earlier dream states, he had experienced being aboard the mothership as a surprise attack began, with warnings going off around him. In the panic, he managed to get his family off the endangered vessel. And Jerry remembered that he had piloted a small saucer towards the Earth's surface with others on board, but it crashed into the water near a small beach. Now, in the spontaneous past life experience, Jerry had found himself in the saucer again, pinned down by part of the damaged craft, slowly drowning. His two otherworldly experiences, one during sleep and another while awake, fitted together perfectly. And I'm not going to go too much further, folks. I'm just going to read this next bit and then we'll discuss it and move on. And I urge you all to check out this entire book. It says, and this is called Exogenesis Hybrid Humans. Later, Valerie communicated again with Charinga to help unravel more of the puzzling events. The story that emerged was that of a sizable crystalline craft, imbued with its own consciousness, carrying 50,000 colonists from the Pleiades. The plan was to take control of the Earth from its rather unpleasant rulers. Successful negotiation had already been completed. Earth would then function as an outpost for benevolent races, keen on assisting with modifying the belief systems of negative intentioned entities inhabiting the surrounding sector of space. Just before taking full control of Earth, the opposing force of more aggressive extraterrestrials had broken the agreement and launched a surprise attack. Only a handful of scout craft had made it safely down, carrying fewer than 100 survivors to the planet's surface. It says, with their plans in tatters and now lacking the equipment to successfully colonize an environmentally hostile planet, the survivors came up with a new idea. If not for this disaster and the sudden need to revise their plans, modern humans might not even exist. I must admit to having had a particularly strong emotional reaction to Valerie Barrow's book, especially when it detailed the destruction of an alien mothership. I know the feeling, Bruce. It reminded me of a powerful past life experience that I went through during a personal shamanic journey in 2002. And during the fully immersive experience, I found myself as a tall, extraterrestrial humanoid with an elongated head and wearing a blue jumpsuit. I was piloting a small spacecraft towards Earth and was aware of several hostile craft in pursuit. And I am going to leave that there, because that is, listen, maybe it resonates with some people the way it does with me. Maybe it doesn't. I think there's something to, it might sound crazy and it's not the usual type of thing I say, but I think there's something to that. I really do.
No, I think that there's something to it as well, you know. And I think that this also ties into a lot of the stuff that we see in like the Vedic Indian texts, right? Like the Mahabharata, where obviously there was some kind of a battle that had taken place over this planet. And it seems to have been documented in the Mahabharata, right? Where, I mean, it appears we have entities flying through the sky using energy weapons and all kinds of craziness. So I'm definitely on board with some kind of an ancient alien battle for the planet, you know. It's wild. It's wild, man. But it seems to, you know, it seems to check a lot of the boxes for other things that we discuss when we start discussing like ancient civilizations and the things that have been documented in their mythos, right? And legends, if you will. It seems to coincide with a lot of things. So I agree. I think there's something to it, man.
That kind of like, if we look at the battle type thing it talked about there, the other book that I've read, I don't have it in front of me right now, but it talks about potential evidence to support this, because there's a specific type of pebble or stone that's found, and it's strewn between Australia and up through the waters towards Japan, that kind of direction. And this kind of, it's either crystal or stone, I can't remember off the top of my head, but it's produced when it's in contact with great heat. And it's all over the place, absolutely widespread, as if potentially it rained down from the heavens. So it's not direct, conclusive evidence, but there's supporting evidence that you could use to really make the case for, like we're saying here, some ancient alien battle. We talk about Vermanas and things all the time, you know. We could be talking about an account here, a very, very key account of a very key battle for stewardship of the planet. And then you have to ask then, Scott, who's in control of it now?
Yeah, who won? Who was the winner of that
Naysay
battle?
knows. Naysay knows. He knows. It's powers that shouldn't be.
Was it the...
Nothing worse than when you go to your hovercraft and you find out your 3 amethysts and a rose quartz low on your crystals.
Don't worry about it, dude. $333, and David Wilcock promises he's not lying. He'll build you a hovercraft, dude. Honestly. You'll have a flying car and a hoverboard by next year. Honestly, it's not a hoax.
I can't confirm or deny that the NDA says I cannot discuss those plans.
He's got to be the only man that introduces himself as your buddy. Your deadbeat dad. What? What is that all about? And people are probably thinking, what are they talking about now? He's an alien of very, very preposterous levels. He's a bottom-feeding reptilian, and we shouldn't mention him on the show.
Did you check the pinky?
No, it didn't.
Check the gap between the pinky tip and the ring finger
Myself
tip.
and Scott were just staring at his face last night, which wasn't pretty. Not the face he would trust when you're going to buy a flying car off somebody. I want somebody I can trust. David Wilcock.
All I'm saying is, to me, it appears that there was some genetically modified between Jack Nicholson and a used car salesman. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Jack Nicholson's role in Space Invaders, or no, what was it? What was it called? Can't we all just get along? What was that? Invasion from Mars.
His best one's The Shining.
Mars Attacks. That's what it was.
Mars Attacks. Yes. Yeah. Thank you. Tim Burton.
Yep.
One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Not a good movie.
Oh, brilliant.
Mm-hmm. So,
a couple of minutes before break, boys. I'm out of puff now. I'm done.
That's fine. No, I'm totally on board with the ancient alien battle that took place. We also see evidence in India as well of when the sand or the ground is heated up so much it turns to glass. I forgot the name of the phenomena, or what they call that. Is it vitrification?
I think it is. Yeah.
We're something at an incredible heat. Something along the line. Yeah, that can do it, but we're talking about like a giant patch that was like covering a wide area. Almost like the vitrified glass that you would find at like the Trinity test site or something along those lines. It was definitely something far beyond a lightning strike, and nobody can explain it. Nobody can explain what created it, why it was created, and the only explanation is that there were nuclear detonations occurring a very, very long time ago, and if that was the case, how is that happening?
Isn't that why they had to disassemble Montauk? Because they were getting too many answers.
Maybe. Who knows, man? Who knows? But I just think that that's another data point to add to this whole ancient alien battle situation. There was something really crazy that took place a long time ago, and who knows, Kev? What if this battle or something played a role in the fall of Atlantis? Or what do you think, Naysay? Do you think that might have played a role in the demise of Atlantis? Maybe we had some malevolent entities fighting some benevolent entities.
They didn't schedule their throwing the switch of the Hadron Collider in the different locations around the world. They forgot to coordinate it, and they all just happened to turn the flick the switch at the same exact time. And next thing you know, some vibration occurred, and we're on a break again.
Can you believe it, guys? Only an hour to go on your Freaky Friday. I hope you're handling today's woo. Scotty, we knew it was going to be a good one. This has been absolutely stellar. Now I'm going to nip away for 5 minutes. I'm going to leave it in your trusty hands and take it wherever we want to go, boys. So we're all good now.
Well, while you step away for a little bit, I am going to get into the Roswell rock and the controversy around it. Is it a hoax?
Do you want to drop me a link and I'll bring it up for you?
Yes. Yeah, let me get
problem,
that to you.
dude. No problem.
And you can maybe just scroll to the picture of it so that the audience can see it.
Absolutely.
And I will get into it, and then me and Naysay will discuss and we'll put our thoughts in on it, and then whenever you get back, we'll get your take on it.
There we go, dude. There we go. All yours, man.
There we go. All right. So let's talk about this rock that was found near the Roswell crash site. It says A local businessman, Robert Ridge, discovered the Roswell rock while out deer hunting on the afternoon of September 4th, 2004. Little did he realize that he made a discovery that has come under scrutiny and fierce debate even to this day. A small brown rock lay partially covered in dirt in the sands of the desert. Only after venturing to pick it up did he notice an embossed design on the face of it. Strange magnetic properties. Ridge noted that the rock had a strong magnetic field that emanated from somewhere within it. When coming into magnetic contact, the rock slowly revolved in a clockwise or counterclockwise direction, depending on which pole was being manipulated. The rock was somehow able to remain in physical contact with one's hand when that hand was being held in a vertical orientation. So it had the ability to kind of like stick to you, which is interesting. And it says a similar design to the 1996 Laddington Castle crop circle. The most eye-catching feature of the rock's design, or is the rock's design itself. The design on it, similar to a crop circle found in Swindon, England, about a decade before the rock's discovery. A pilot and his passenger discovered the crop circle as they flew over the field twice within half an hour. The first time they passed, there was nothing but a standard field of corn. When they returned, the circle had formed. Crop circle investigators carried out extensive studies of the circle and eventually came to the conclusion it was not only a genuine example, but a near-perfect formation. A comparison of the rock and the circle indicate they are both designed to scale with one another. One perfectly overlays the other. Very interesting. So, is it an elaborate hoax? Skeptics of the Roswell rock say that it is either some elaborate hoax or some kind of anomaly that has somehow managed to beat the 1,000,000 to 1 odds of becoming sensitized to magnetism. According to conventional wisdom, the best way to fabricate the rock would be sandblasting an existing stone using a stencil design placed upon the top of it. While such an endeavor would create an external design, testing of this hypothesis proved an example of lesser quality than that of the rock. With enough time and dedication, it is surely possible to create a definitive example, but then why leave it out in the middle of nowhere and hope it would be found? So let's get into some of the analysis of this. The rock is 1.5 inches thick and 2 inches wide. The rock is triangular in shape and the design protrudes above the surface of the rock. Studies of the stone determine the rock itself is not native to Cedar Hill where it was found. In this particular region, limestone is the predominant rock. Further studies also determine the rock is of considerable age. Completely solid with no internal cavities where a small magnet could be inserted. The beveling on the design is microscopically clear and defined, which suggests some advanced laser cutting tool carved it. Sandblasting alone would not be able to achieve the same results. So if this rock is as ancient as believed, how long has it been here? Where did it originate? And did it have something to do with the alleged Roswell UFO crash just after the war? Could extraterrestrial visitors have deposited it here eons ago and came to retrieve it one stormy day in 1947? If so, was the crop circle in England a further attempt to locate the rock? Will they make another attempt? Is the rock some sort of key? Or maybe someone is trying to tell us something different. Who knows? So, What do you think, Naysay? What do you think is going on with this rock, the
So
Roswell?
it makes me think of a few things. One thing in particular, Dr. Moto and his miracles in water, when he proved that writing on a piece of paper and putting it on a glass, and if you take enough photography of the crystals that are created when frozen, you get these incredible, intricate designs, which reminds me of radionics or semantics with the seismographs and the frequencies. So if a symbol or iconography or a sigil is a frequency, and you have a stone that in itself is a vibratory frequency, and you combine these together under the proper conditions, and you happen to be on a ley line or some type of an alignment to where they trigger each other and cause a shift in the frequency, then, lo and behold, maybe this is why, when you look at some of these leaders, they would have these different tools, whether you want to call them magic wand or scepters, or their throne is made out of a particular chunk of rock because of its alleged, mystical, magical currency, frequency.
Yeah. And I don't know if you've if you know what the symbol looks like or what this crop circle look like, but I can kind of describe it to you. That way you can kind of get an idea of what's embossed on this on this stone. And it's also interesting because it's not like indented into the stone. A lot of it is like raised out of the stone, which is very interesting.
Earlier you were talking about the oscilloscope. And when you look at an oscilloscope, what you're looking at is a two-dimensional representation of something that's occurring in the three-dimension.
Yes.
Because you're just seeing the oscilloscope going up and down, and you're not seeing it coming back and forth towards you and away from you. So when you look at these different, I think it was Colin Anderson from way back in the day, used to really enjoy his crop circle clinique. I think he was in charge of, but those are allegedly two-dimensional representations too. So to take this stuff and look at it in the third dimension or plot it in a three-dimensional grid pattern, what is it, that's being missed just because we don't think of things in that fourth dimension, fifth dimension, sixth dimension. When the moon is in the seventh hour.
Well, it's interesting you bring up the moon because I was going to describe the symbol that is engraved in this. And so you have two circles, right, that are right next to each other, pressed up against each other, but they seem to be like almost mirroring each other, or what's in one circle is kind of flipped the opposite way in the other circle, and each one contains what appears to be a crescent moon, and when these circles are pressed together, like the ends of the
do they overlap?
No, they're just like touching each other. Like the very ends of the crescent moons are like touching each other, and each one is like inverted from the other on each side, and then right above the crescent moon there's like a circle, so it's like a circle within a circle. And it's very interesting. And I see you're back, Kev.
I've seen these things being tested. Boy with the hair, like Giorgio. They took it to like metallurgists, stoneworkers. They were trying to like shave bits off it. By all accounts, I honestly thought the guy was not very keen on having it like scraped. But looking back on it now with hindsight, because after he finally let it get scraped and they tested it and everything else, because at the time I'm thinking, he's not wanting them to scrape it because there's a magnet in it or it's some kind of hokey pokey. But it was actually far from that. It was like he had become attached to this thing. And he was scared about the damage it might do to it, because it seemed, after the amount of testing they put it through, Scott, and they scrutinized it quite a lot. I mean, it seems to be the genuine real deal, right? Inexplicable.
Yeah, it's at a microscopic level, it's so precise that they said it would have taken some kind of advanced laser technology to actually carve that in there. You couldn't do it with sandblasting or anything like that. And then, I find it interesting that the symbol on there, it matches that crop circle that was in England in 1996.
Yeah, I've seen a picture of that there. Yeah.
Yeah, and they did a whole investigation of that crop circle, and it was determined it was one of the real deal, unexplained crop circles. It wasn't like it was just some group that went out there and made it. There was a pilot, I believe, and his son or something that flew over that area, and the field was there was nothing there. And it was like literally 30 minutes later, they flew back over the field and the crop circle was there.
You can tell from looking down from above that it's got that authentic look to it. And I would imagine if you were down there investigating it, all that wheat, all that crop that's bent down, it's not dead. It'll have a nice nodule where it's been bent over. And anyone who grows plants at home, they'll marijuana, you top your plant, and it grows back with that big nodule on it, and you think to yourself, that must kill the plant, right? No, it doesn't, you see. So I think that's one good way to differentiate between Doug, Dave, and Kev and Bob and a plank of wood and whatever it is that causes the authentic ones, you know?
Wasn't there also, like, some of the branches, they would almost, like, weave themselves amongst itself? It was
really weird. Like there was some kind of very strange, energetic, like vorticity or something that was put pressure on these plants and causing them to lay in such a weird way. And before you play the clip, Kev, I also, this kind of caught my eye as I was looking at that. If you go back to the crop circle, don't you see a little bit of similarity with the Aboriginal art where you have the circles being connected by these kind of boomerang, pathways that are going from one circle to another? That just kind of caught my eye too. So I just thought I'd throw that out there. Who knows?
I really enjoyed that famous video about the orb, when they showed the orb going into the field and then all of a sudden a crop circle's being formed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll play this. This is the sequel. I tell you, man, that's what they're going to find at the bottom of the money pit. That guy does that many voiceovers. He must be a quadrillionaire by now, right? He does everything for history, man.
He's got the ultimate gig, all he gets to do is sit there and read about woo, and the bucks come rolling in,
There's a ranch in Utah. There's an island.
The biggest challenge I have with Linda Moulton Howe is that I think about the cows on the moon with her strange harvest video, and there's that one local deputy guy, where they interview, and he's like just adamant about having to put his foot up on the bumper and get that good old cowboy pose on. and I just go back to that flashback of Linda Moulton Howe. And so,
there's actually, I'm not even making this up, but there's like people out there, and I'll need to try and find the website, but there's people who say that that's the reason that the moon is called the moon, because it's moo. Right. It's like a code, and really on the far side of the moon, it's literally cows that are up there. That's the big secret.
Are we starting to? We're doing a little decoding here, Kev?
No, I'm just saying that I'm just stating that there is people out there that actually. Yeah. I read it on the internet. It must be true.
We got a transmission from the moon.
You see, there you go. They're hiding it in plain sight every time they moo in the field. There you go.
If you take all of the milk cartons and you take the missing children and you put them upside down, and then you turn them 360 degrees, then they come together to form a link of the. Well, I can't go any deeper. I'm getting close to the NDA. Sorry.
Okay. Yeah. Hey, but it's like that episode of South Park, right, where the aliens were coming down and abducting the cows, right? And everyone was wondering why, and then you finally figure out, the aliens are like, well, these are the most intelligent beings on your planet, so we want to study them, and then it was revealed that the cows were they were the ones, right? Well, wasn't that our theory too, Kev?
Think so.
Yeah. So, yes.
Well, if the moon is made out of cheese, it needs some dairy up there.
Right. See, there you go.
I thought I'd saved that website, but I actually haven't. That's really disappointing. Really disappointing. That'd have been. I can't believe I didn't save that.
Was it the Cat and the Fiddle?
No.
That the
No.
dog ran away with the dish and the spoon?
No. Definitely not.
I know there's a code in there somewhere. Every fifth letter.
But going back to the Roswell rock, though, a thing that I thought was very interesting, and it caught my attention yesterday. That's why when we were on with Evan and Stephen Strong, those that first stone that they were showing, or those first couple of stones that they were talking about. I mean, the Roswell rock has a very, very similar color and texture and everything to those star rocks that they were showing, and that's why it immediately clicked in my head. I was like, oh man, I got to drop the Roswell rock in there, because it looks like it's maybe the same composition or the same type of stone, and then they say that stone isn't even native to that area of New Mexico. It's mostly sandstone out there, not whatever this rock is composed of. So very interesting.
Not to be confused with pop rocks or miracle rocks that grow crystals in water.
Indeed. So, yeah, what do you got going on there, Kev?
I'm still trying to find that website. I'm still trying to find it.
Did you ever send in those back of the pages of the old cartoons? $2, and then you would get your sea monkeys, or you'll get your magical rocks, where you put the little tablets in a glass of salt water, or was it vinegar water?
That's old school. That's back in the day, man. Yeah.
Well, back when we used to play with dirt, because we had no other toys.
Back in my day, when we went outside and we dug in the mud with a stick, I also think the magnetic properties of that rock is interesting. I saw some people in the chat talking about maybe the correlation between, like a map, north, south, east, west, and then the magnetism, almost like a compass, rotating. Very interesting. All right. We're going to be heading into the last segment, everyone, when we come back. So stay tuned. Kev looks like he's on a deep mission right now.
I need to find it.
Bring your decoder rings back with you. We'll translate the rock of Roswell.
Welcome back, everyone. Final segment of today's Freaky Friday with Nacy, Scotty Lopez, me, Kev Baker, and all of you out there. And don't go anywhere after we finish, because coming up on TFRlive.com, we've got Brent Thomas, and he will take you through the paranormal portal. So all still to come right here on your #1 network. Now, guys, I am like a determined little beaver. We've had stones, we've had beavers on today's show. What comes next, I do not know. But I cannot find my conspiracy where people were saying The moon was called the moon because it's like hiding in plain sight. It's the land of cows. I am quite disturbed. Dave is suggesting it may be having a Mandela effect. Kev is having a conversation back with him saying, no, I remember doing it on a stream. So I will find this. It probably won't be today. But randomly over the next couple of weeks, I'll say, guys, guess what I found? Yeah.
Watch. You'll find it right after the show's over. Because
I think you did it on a post KBS show.
I think I did, Macy.
Yeah, I remember it.
You remember it? It was like a black website. It had like the kind of white cow on it, had the moon there. Moon.
Yeah, the images I don't quite remember.
Well, obviously that might be a problem. That might be a problem. However,
but I do remember the story.
I think Nano Girl remembers as well because I just got she's listening in the chat. Good to see you, Nano Girl. Or good to hear from you. I'm gonna try and find it still because that is really gonna irk me. Irky. But anyway, guys. Magic rocks. Where do we go next?
I don't know.
We've got the Dropa. If we want to get into them. Nobody remember the Dropa stones?
Dropa stones sounds familiar, but it's not. It's not clicking.
Well, be careful with your stones because you don't want to Dropa.
You're amateurs. The Dropa stones, otherwise known as the Dizopa stones or the Dropa stones or the Dropka stones, are said by some ufologists. And here we go. I love it. Giving me my full title today. Pseudo-archaeologists. I'm an armchair pseudo-archaeologist, please. Never had my hands dirty once on a dig. That is the brilliant thing about a remote telemetry that I use for my pseudo-archaeology. And it's a series of at least, you ready? Some numbers, Nacy? 716. It's 716 circular stone discs dating back, just a humble 12,000 years, on which tiny hieroglyph-like markings can be found. Each disc is claimed to measure up to 1 foot, which is 30 centimeters in diameter, and carry 2 grooves originating from a hole in the center in the form of a double spiral. The hieroglyph-like markings are said to be found in these grooves. No record has been found of the stones being displayed in any of the world's museums, therefore they're assumed to be a hoax. Now we'll take a look at the pictures here and I'll drop a picture over in the chat room at TFR in just a moment. It's one of the more famous pictures there of the Dropa. Yeah. Got that there. Very interesting.
Baby.
Yeah, what do you make of them, Scotty boy? I'm going to drop this picture to the TFR chat.
Very interesting. Of course, I've heard all kinds of different theories and ideas about what these are. Are they some kind of
they're like the Hellraiser box.
I've heard ideas thrown around like, are we looking at basically some kind of an early type of like a compact disc or a record of some kind that has some kind of information imprinted on it? Because if I remember correctly, right, these hieroglyphs are really tiny. You have to like get in there and really it's a very fine granular kind of thing or something. And these things are really, really fascinating, and I have no idea what it could be. I mean, I'm leaning on the side.
I'm sure some of them probably. Well, I'm saying probably. In my opinion, we could be looking at some that may be replicas of original, authentic ones that came before. People try to reproduce them. But I do think, and again, it's up to the people to decide, but I think at the heart of this, there is something to it. Now, I'm like you, Scotty. When you see these, it's hard because our human mind looks for patterns. And when you see this, it looks like a disc with a hole in the middle. And your mind automatically associates that with like a CD-ROM, a DVD, something like that, because that's what we do. We recognize patterns. Is it something like that? I don't know. I'd like to think so. And when we heard last night about the potential for stone recording memories, information, then I think we have to keep a very open mind when it comes to any of these types of, not just simple rocks, but potentially advanced technology.
Well, look at the iconography of it. You know, if you think of a record, the circle within the square, you look at a CD, another circle within the square. You look at the old timepieces, a square with a circle, the clock face in it, you know, and that circle and square is the pattern of infinity. Then we start getting into the phi ratio and the golden mean spiral and Fibonacci and Platonic solids all over again. The cycles of the cycles of the cycles.
We come around full circle, right? And you know, and then you have these spiral patterns, right? And you know, like Naysay said, then that's when you start getting into the golden ratio and all of that stuff. So you know, we see a lot of these same sort of things being represented on all of these I'm just gonna call them ancient artifacts, you know, and there's a commonality that you start to see, you know, there's like a pattern that seems to be that you can kind of follow when it comes to a lot of this stuff, right? You know, there's a commonality of concentric circles, of spirals, and you see this all throughout the world, you know, and so there's something going on there, you know, just
and
like
then you add to the fact of that of these so-called libraries throughout history that have been destroyed, you know, because they don't want the information to be out there, you know, because if we were any smarter, would the powers that should not be really be in control still?
After what we were reading on Twitter earlier today, you honestly think it would make a blind bit of difference if the secrets of the universe were out there? Oh, I'm telling you, I don't know, Nacy. At times, sometimes I think maybe it's for our own good that these things are kept back, because I see what goes on in people's minds, and maybe just some aren't responsible enough to have access to this advanced, powerful technologies that we're talking about. Hey, is what it is, you know.
Hey, you know, I mean, if you want to look at it from the terms of like, look, you know, say there was some ancient alien race that, you know, did a little genetic manipulation and created us, let's just say, and
I hope it's bloody proud of itself when it scrolls through Twitter. That's all I can say.
Hey, you know, and I, you know, they're just sitting back waiting for us as a species to be ready
ourselves.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? It's like they're watching their alien ant farm and seeing how far we can go before they reveal the fact that, hey, you're in an alien ant farm, you know.
I'm telling all of you head-drawn colliders, please get your schedule together so you don't all turn on the switch at the same time.
But, you know, I mean, but really though, I mean, you notice that there was this also like this commonality of that there's going to be this change coming, right, Kev? That we're entering a new something's on the horizon, and that there's going to be some kind of a big change that takes place. And you know, I think part of that is, you know, do we reach that level to where they feel like we've reached a level to where they can return and talk to us or whatever, interact with us. You know, obviously, I don't think we're at that level right now. We
Me
we
either.
can,
Me either.
EONR.
yeah, we can barely handle a conversation with each other, let alone some aliens coming back, you know, from back in the day and going. I'm sure they would land and be like, "Oh my God, we left the kids at the house over the weekend and they destroyed it." You know, what the hell were we thinking? Cutting these apes loose and letting them try to run the show. Jeez, you know. But I don't know, man.
Funny you said that. I'm revisiting the old school Planet of the Apes
Nice.
and the
Good show, man.
new school.
Yep.
Loved them. Even enjoyed the TV series when I was a kid.
There's a new TV show coming on Apple TV. Only know because I've got the iPhone, so I didn't. It comes with the phone. I would not have purchased that otherwise. But it's called Foundation. And it's based on an Isaac Asimov novel or series of novels.
Didn't that drop today?
Yeah, I believe that is out today, dude. The first 2 episodes are out. I'm really
Did you
looking
see
forward
that?
to it. I'm really looking forward to it. But it deals with, like, there's a character in there that basically all seeing, knows everything, past, present, future, can see how the human race is going, how the universe is going. It talks about how everything is pure math and you can't get away from the math. It talks about the data as well. That's been all taken and it looks absolutely mind-boggling. And I know a lot of people say poo-poo watching TV shows, programming and things like that. And absolutely, but at the same time, if you engage with it and you actually start looking for little Easter eggs here and there, it can make it a totally different experience altogether. You start to see through the programming and you start to see art mirroring life or life mirroring art. Then you have to have the internal conversation. Did they intentionally put that there? Or did whoever invented this come up with what he thought was an original thought? But really, it's all just coming from the Akashic records where everything exists, Scotty boy. Everything exists.
You know, gentlemen, next time
Put
we
it out
get
there.
together. Sorry, go ahead, Scotty.
No, I was just to say, if you put it out there, then you know that there's a possibility that you're able to manifest it in reality, right? So if you throw the idea or you know of something out there, it can be manifested, you know.
Science fiction becomes science fact.
Yep, exactly. I mean, how many times have we seen that? I mean, look at Jules Verne, right? And rockets and space travel and all of that, and that was science fiction at the time. But now, you know, it's become science reality, and you know, a lot of these things. Look at the old Star Trek episodes. You know, how much of that was science fiction, and then a lot of that.
When is Picard coming back? I want season 2 of Picard. Need that to drop right now. Enjoyed that. I did enjoy that. Must admit. Getting old now, the big man.
Hey, you know, but hey, he's Picard.
And 7 of 9 was in it as well, which was always a bonus.
Oh, 7 of 9.
Oh, absolutely. You definitely, man. Hey, I'm all for a bit of interspecies relations.
Hey, you know,
she's still half human,
resist.
right? I mean, she's still half human. That's okay, right?
Yeah.
Look,
resistance is futile when it's 7 of 9.
You think we'll get to a time where if you marry a reptilian overlord, you'll have to sit up the back of the bus, or you'll be shut off from certain bits of reality if you're like shacking up with an insect somewhere, or you know.
Interspecial relationships.
I really do waste my time worrying about the most lunatic type stuff, don't I? Yeah.
Hey,
Well, you know, the beauty is what I was.
It's nice to know that, you know, Kev's already thinking about, you know,
Got the exopolitics in mind. I'm working on a framework, you know.
exopolitical wokeness, man. I mean, that's what we need to be focusing on.
You know, that
Well,
would
it
be
wouldn't
my
quite be polygamy
it would be
if
my
you
worst
had an
fear, though, Nacy.
insectoid wife.
That would be my first fear. I mean, that would like just destroy me. If I've been like doing circuits around our local star year after year, hoping for contact to be made, and the first thing they do when they crawl or slither or fly off their mothership is declare their pronouns. I will be absolutely in can rage. With rage, I tell you, ladies and gentlemen. I am telling you, Scott, at that point, I'm taking no more.
And if we
No
have any
prisoners.
sense, we will try and fight forward.
Yes, through the reptilian hordes.
Hey, that's how interplanetary wars get started. And that's how ships end up crashing off the coast of Australia. And
Don't take me back there, dude. Don't take me back there. That left me needing my nebulizer, man. That sent me into a little like hyperventilating type kind of whoa. And folks, you don't have to believe a word I say. I'm not somebody like David Wilcock who lies to you once a week about something different. And you can take it or leave it. But Donnie knows that story, there's something to it. And it doesn't affect me. But we read how many stories on Freaky Friday? None of them really hit home to a kind of guttural level like that one.
Just say there's something like visceral about that.
Big time, dude. And you ask Donnie, and Donnie will laugh and say, Kev, we were blowing out of the sky and you fell out the floor. And he tried to grab me and no go. And it just so happens I am like petrified of falling in heights. That's my worst thing. Many times we talked about the rock climbing and that feeling in the belly, and that's what stopped me joining the paras. I would have loved to have been a para, at least tried for it. But I've got a one hard and fast rule. I ain't jumping off no plane unless I see the pilot going. So that's going to scupper your career as a paratrooper, you know what I'm saying? So I don't know, maybe it's some ancestral memory. Talked in that book about how certain people were coming back together with different parts of the story. I honestly feel that that's why there's been such a good connection made with the Donnies and Lunas of this world, with the Stephen and Evan Strong. They absolutely love coming on. And they go on hundreds of shows, I would imagine. But I think that something special is what I'm picking up on when we talk about these stories. And if you're listening to this right now, there's a good chance maybe you're here for a reason. You might not even realise it yet. I do think at this time of great change, always believed we've been here before. I just really do think we're starting to reconfigure.
One last thing I have to investigate about your fear of falling first is talking to good old Pearl and see how many times she fumbled you and you bounced off the floor.
Well, maybe. Possibly. I mean, that could explain a hell of a lot more going on with me as well. Probably Dave as well. But no, dude, it's always been a thing. And like, this is going to sound weird, right? Because you can go in a helicopter. The door's shut. You got your feet on something firm. I can do that, no bother. I can sit on a plane. I could fly anywhere. Not a problem. Not scared. Don't need to take a tablet. I'm not going like full B.A. Baracus and you need to knock me out to get on a plane. But if I've got like open air, the wind's in my face and my feet are hanging and I can like, whoa, doo-doo, not happening. Not happening, Lopez. It's like, no. Horrible.
Well, we've discussed, past lives and things like that, right? And like the birthmarks, how it seems when people go into past life regressions and they've met their demise, that a lot of times if it involved some kind of a trauma or whatever, it seems to coincide with a birthmark that they have, that they go together. If they sustained head trauma, they might have a mark on their head or, whatever. Maybe this also translates to fears that one has, maybe what would be considered irrational fears. A fear of heights, maybe that was the way you went in a previous life. Maybe you fell, from a high from a high place, and like you said, if this coincides with what you and Donnie have discussed, and you fell from the bottom of a floor or whatever that was blown out, and maybe that's
Well,
that
see,
genetic memory.
He remembers the event vividly that we were reading about earlier on, and Bruce Fenton, he's another one that has recollection of this mission, that this time, this war. That's what you have to call it. That there was like literally a war. From what I can make out, the Pleiadian ships were coming here. It was meant to be all handed over. But then you'd got like some kind of rogue faction. I don't know if they were reptilians or what they were. But they started shooting things out the sky. So I don't know. Hey, Nacy, it is what it is, right? It is what it is. And then, of course, there's the French connection. But that's just a weirder one forward in history. That if I have to pick one of the two, I'll stick with the Pleiadian mission. I like that one better. Yeah.
Well, the estimated 6.3 billion years old, or who knows how old this planet is, but rise and fall of civilization. And if we're stuck within the boundaries of the electromagnetic biosphere as Earth, then the idea of coming back time and time again doesn't seem so far-fetched. And that's the beauty. Next time we come back, it's going to be October and then Halloween.
No, it's the witching month, right?
Yes, indeed.
We're going to have to really get our scary
freak on.
movies.
Yeah, we're going to have to really get our freak on. We'll binge watch some scary movies.
Yeah.
Malignant. Have you seen that one yet?
No, I have not. No.
That's a new one that just dropped. I recommend it. Pretty interesting.
Sounds good. Mm-hmm.
Nice. Yeah, we'll have to dig up some Stoll stuff, because Halloween is the day when it really goes down at Stoll, when the gateway opens up, Kev, to the underworld. And it is said that Lucifer himself may reveal himself.
Blah.
That's on Halloween.
The Morning Star.
Can't be about Lucifer, man. Come on, dude.
So yeah. It's definitely getting that time, people. We're getting into spooky time, so we're gonna have to dig up some good paranormal stuff, some good scary woo for everyone to dive into this month. It'll be good.
Indeed. Nacy, come on. 3 minutes. Woo us out the door.
3 minutes of some woo. Let's see. What's one of my favorite experiences? How about the mansion, the door slams? That one's always a favorite. So in Pig's Eye, well, they really called it St. Paul, Minnesota, the capital of Minnesota. I was fortunate to be up on Summit Avenue in a mansion for the summer. A friend of mine was a caretaker while the family was in France during the summer. And I got to live with her for the summer because we were going to move in together. In the middle of the night, I'm up in my room sleeping. And the rule is you're supposed to go through the coal door or the servant's door, where you had to go downstairs and into this big, huge metal door. And then from that door, going through the basement, up to the first floor, up to the second floor, up to the third floor, where I lived in the far corner of the house, there was roughly about 10 to 12 doors from that basement upstairs into my door. So I'm up there in my room, I'm sitting there reading a book. Next thing you know, I hear this slam of the big metal door because it resonates throughout the house. And then all of a sudden, in incremental order, I hear bang, 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 and the pace quickens. And so it resonates throughout the house, and it stops just before my door in the room that I'm staying in. I'm leaning up against, because I had a futon on the floor, and right above me is this big, huge arch window. And all of a sudden, I remembered The Exorcist, about how the priest got thrown, or the friend got thrown out the window. So I dive into the corner.
Oh,
So
come
my back
on. That
is
would have
up
been far
against.
better if you'd lied and just said you went flying
Oh,
out the
dude.
window.
Well, I'm not even going to check about the viscosity that happened in my shorts while I'm waiting.
Oh, well, we've
for
had
this.
balls, we've had beavers, and we've got the
But it was
paranormal
scary.
portal. We're out of here, folks. Keep it real. Wherever you are, make it TFR. Now, before we leave,
Kudos.
you wonderful people on Twitch, we're up to 12 on Twitch today. That might not
Oh,
sound like much,
fantastic.
but we're growing every week. Slowly but surely. Nearly at 50 subs over there now. But somebody over there called Guy Wilson, I think it was. Get this, I had the same dream twice of watching a carrier gather her squads of ships and then they shoot off in different directions. They put me inside of one of the craft. It was empty with a crystal directional stick that followed a green marker on a curved screen. How cool and
Wow.
bizarre is that? And that's another thing I do like about Twitch as well. It's got like the Illuminati eye as like an icon you can use. You see that? See it there?
Yeah, it's a nice little sticker. You get the
Yeah, I like
Illuminati eye.
that. I like it, dude. I like it.
The
So-
triangle with the dot.
yeah, Bobby Trizzle, we love you, man. No, it's literally the one off the dollar bill, dude. It's like your,
Yeah.
yeah, it's your proper
Illuminati.
Oh dear Lord. Anyway, anywho, I want to thank everyone for tuning in today. Me and Scott have got somewhere to
Wrestling.
be. Yes, we've got wrestling. We've got men in
Yes.
lycra to watch. Also women in
Yep.
lycra. Not that we're like that, but yay. Yes, we will be going. We'll be back on. Well, I'll be back on Sunday member stream. We've got Bill Bean as well on Sunday night. Next week on KBS, not too much planned. So we'll be getting deep into the crazy stuff. We'll do news, we'll do woo, and we'll break it up and we'll find something totally unique that nobody else is talking about. So I want to thank everyone for tuning in today. I hope you were able to handle our stone ball woo. Very risky.
Yeah.
Very good fun as well, though, I must admit. Very good fun.
It's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
Was it
great.
good for you, Nacy? Did we
Oh,
take
it's-
care of your balls? And
You gentlemen are always gentle men when it comes to handling the balls.
you see that? That's what I wanted to hear, dude. Thank you very much. Nothing says I love you like gently handled balls. That's all I can say.